Alright, this is the United States and China, turn 1. The United States has 52 IPCs to spend, China has 12 IPCs to spend. The Americans are going to spend 10 of their IPCs on a transport for 7 and an infantry for 3. They're going to spend 32 of their IPCs on 2 aircraft carriers. And they're going to spend 10 of their IPCs. This is one of our weird custom rules. The Americans, for the first, we've changed this actually, for the first 3 rounds, it used to be 4 rounds, but for the first 3 rounds, they can purchase any tech from anybody else. And the other wrinkle that we added is anybody else with whom they are not at war. And right now they're not at war with anybody. So they're going to purchase, for 10 IPCs, the propaganda technology from the Italians. So that will come into play at the end of the turn. The Chinese have 12 IPCs. They're going to buy 4 infantry. That's all they can buy because the Burma Road's closed. And the United States has no combat, but China does. They will be attacking 1 Japanese territory. Well, it's actually a Chinese territory that the Japanese took. They're going to send 2 infantry from Kwaichao into Yunnan and an infantry and a fighter from Sichuan into Yunnan as well. So that's the only combat. We'll get the dice set up and we'll get rolling. Okay, battle for Yunnan. Chinese are coming in with 3 infantry at 1. And the American Flying Tiger Volunteer Fighter at 3. And the Japanese are defending with 2 2s. No hits to start. Japan defends. No hits. Okay. 4 hits. Wow, that was impressive. Okay, Japan defends. And no hits, so China decisively wins that battle. Okay. Okay, non-combat for the United States. The Americans in the Atlantic Theater are going to load up an infantry and an artillery onto their transport in C-Zone 101. And the transport and the cruiser are going to sail to C-Zone 11 on the Pacific side of the board, and presumably the infantry and artillery will stay on the boat. I think they're pretty safe. I don't think there's anything around that can hit them. In terms of other movement on this side of the board, the 3 mechanized infantry in central U.S. are going to move to the eastern United States. The tank from the central United States is going to move to the western United States. The fighter from the eastern United States is going to move into C-Zone 10 and land on the new carriers that are going to be built there. And the strategic bomber from the central United States is going to act as a transport. It's going to load up 1 infantry and it's going to fly to Hawaii and drop off the infantry there and stay there as a transport until it resets as a strategic bomber next turn. On the Pacific side of the board, the Americans in the Philippines are going to do the following. There is a fighter there. It's going to fly 5 and land in C-Zone 31, where there will eventually be an aircraft carrier. I'll show you that move in a sec. The submarine and destroyer naval contingent in C-Zone 35 are going to make their way to C-Zone 23 on this side of the board here. Over here in the Pacific side, the fighter in C-Zone 10 is going to land on the new one of the new carriers, the fighter in western United States is going to land in C-Zone 10 on one of the new carriers. And the transport from C-Zone 10 is going to load up an infantry and an artillery and bring it to Hawaii. The naval units here, the destroyer cruiser battleship, are going to make their way to Hawaii, and the C-Zone outside Hawaii. That's C-Zone 26. And the plane that was on the aircraft carrier is going to make its way 1, 2, 3 and land in Hawaii itself. The transport that is in C-Zone 26 is going to make its way back to C-Zone 10, presumably to pick up some new passengers next turn. And finally, the aircraft carrier in C-Zone 10 is going to take its tactical bomber and go to C-Zone 31 off the coast of Wake Island and again pick up that plane from the Philippines. So that's all the American non-combat moves. The Chinese non-combat moves are relatively simple and straightforward. The 2 infantry from Suiyuan are going to move to Shenxi. The 5 remaining infantry in Sichuan are going to move to Shenxi. And the fighter that participated in the Yunnan attack is going to go up to Qinghai. Okay? And that will be all of the non-combat moves. So give me a second to reset the board, and we will come back with placements and force dispositions. Okay, new unit placement for the Americans. Their new infantry is going into the eastern United States. And their new transport and their 2 new aircraft carriers are going in C-Zone 10. Let's just be fun and put 1 fighter on each carrier, just for giggles. Okay, in terms of the Chinese forces and how they're going to be distributed, all of the 4 new infantry are going into Shenxi. Okay, income. The Chinese retake Yunnan, so that is a swing of 1 away from the Japanese. So if we go to the income tracker, Japan goes down from 30 to 29, and China goes up from 8 to 9. So in terms of income, the Chinese get the 9 IPCs that they've earned, plus they get an additional 6 IPCs for a total of 15. 6 IPCs are for the opening of the Burma Road, or the reopening of the Burma Road, so they're going to get 15 IPCs. The Americans are going to get 52 IPCs, but they just purchased the propaganda tech, so they're going to add 6. Excellent roll. So they're going to have 58 IPCs to spend next round. So that's going to go into their treasury. So all we have to do now is disposition of forces. So for the Americans, let's start in the Pacific. In the western United States, they have a tank, 2 anti-aircraft artillery, 1 infantry and 1 mechanized infantry in C-Zone 10, 2 transports, 2 aircraft carriers, each with a fighter on board. In C-Zone 11, there is a cruiser and a transport carrying an infantry and an artillery. In the C-Zone around Hawaii, C-Zone 26, there is a battleship, 2 cruisers, 2 destroyers, 1 submarine, and 1 transport. On Hawaii itself, there is a strategic bomber that is currently a 0 defense transport. There are 4 infantry, 3 from the Pacific side and 1 from the Atlantic side, and 1 artillery, and there are 3 fighters. In the C-Zone 31, next to Wake Island, there is a fully loaded carrier with a fighter and a tactical bomber. And in C-Zone 23, there is a destroyer and a submarine. In the Philippines, there are currently 2 infantry sitting there. In the east, in the eastern United States, the cupboard is pretty bare right now. The Americans have 1 infantry, 3 mechanized infantry, and 2 artillery. The Chinese forces are concentrated basically in 3 areas. There are now 3 infantry in Yunnan. There is a American volunteer fighter in Qinghai, and in Shenxi there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops, hold on. 10. There are 12 infantry in Shenxi. So that is U.S. and China turn 1, and the British are up next.